Hello, nowadays it seems increasingly difficult to give any sincere advice. When you offer advice with good intentions, it can end up being interpreted as meddling, getting involved unnecessarily. In my case, I feel that the advice of older people with experience is very useful, and I have much to learn from them since they possess the wisdom to deal with life's problems. As elders in life, older people have wisdom and experience that no matter how much the world changes, there is an immutable truth, and that truth is that health is the most important thing. I feel a bit embarrassed. I am a successful businesswoman who has built her own path, and I am the president of a solid company. My parents, who passed away young, lived a very hard life, wandering from market to market without a designated place of their own. Even though my parents were financially struggling, I can assure you they were very upright people who earned the respect of others. For as long as I can remember, they always worked very hard, waking up 2 hours earlier in the morning to start the day and finishing work 2 hours later than others. However, deep down in my heart, I often felt a pang because I felt sorry for their hardships. Of course, I respected them as I felt they were very grand people, but when I turned 16 and matured more, I began to understand how hard they had worked and sympathized with their situation. Mother, I am your daughter, right? Well, I'm not sure. I guess you are not my daughter. Very funny, Mother. I am your daughter. So I think like this, will you listen to me? What do you mean? I really wish you and Dad, even if just for one day, would sleep 1 hour longer. You wake up so early in the morning, gulp down cold leftovers from the night before, and rush out to work in a hurry. I wish you would sleep at least 1 more hour and start a warm meal made by your beloved daughter. I'm old enough to cook a hot breakfast now. Just thinking about it, I get so emotional and impressed. How delicious must be a breakfast made by our daughter. However, this is how we think. There is a wise saying that the early bird catches the worm, right? So, that early bird catches a warm worm for which mouth? The baby birds. It's the same for your father and me. We can't do like other parents, send you to private lessons or exchanges, and hire a foreign language tutor. No matter what we can do, we want to do all this for you. That's why we wake up earlier and finish later to work. So do the same. There is a wise saying that upstream water must be clean for downstream water to stay clean, right? That's true. Therefore, from now on, I will wake up 2 hours earlier and make a hot breakfast for you. It will be great for me to go to school earlier to review my studies, and since you work hard, I, the downstream water, cannot be lazy and murky. That's how I was inspired by my parents, as role models, to be a hard-working person. Thanks to this, I managed to study 4 more hours a day than seemed possible. I was able to get into a university, graduate with perfect grades, and won a government scholarship to study abroad. All of this due to the great influence my parents had on me, and I owe it to them. I was also very fortunate to find an honest husband who was highly respected by others, even coming from a very poor family. However, while living an exemplary life, there was one important thing I neglected: maintaining my good health. In my early 30s, when I had been married for a year, I started to feel a strange pain in my lower abdomen, along with a sudden increase in menstrual bleeding and weight gain. But at the time, I was very busy with work, so I didn't have time to pay attention. Deep down, I felt I was young, so I thought nothing serious would happen and simply ignored it as something unimportant. I never imagined this would be the most dangerous mistake of my life. On the day it all started, I had been working all night in the office for several days. There were many things to coordinate before renewing the business contract with one of our company's most important clients. But during the meeting, I thought I dozed off. When I opened my eyes, I was in an emergency room at a university hospital. I was confused and woke up next to my husband and his parents, representing my parents who were in heaven. My husband conveyed the doctor's words that I should undergo tests. Until then, I understood and considered it just a routine examination. I thought I had fainted because of fatigue from overworking for so long. Of course, I wasn't very worried. I was calm and felt I could return to work if I rested well after receiving the results. I was thinking of increasing the benefits for the hard-working employees in my company, but the situation began to change rapidly on the day I received the test results. "Isn't your husband here? Nor any family member?" My husband went to work for a while to take care of the holidays, and my mother-in-law went to the bathroom. "I need them here." Well, I think it would be much better for patients to have a family member by their side to hear the news, rather than being alone. Something was definitely wrong. In an instant, my heart sank. My mother-in-law returned, and my premonition became a reality. "Do you have any special medical conditions in your family?" "Not from your in-laws' side, but from your parents' side." "Yes, both my parents had cancer." "I see." I would like to say first that you will need some more tests until accurate results are obtained. Although the tumor was found in the lower abdomen, due to its location and shape, it is suspected to be a malignant tumor, that is, presumed to be cancer. I was shocked. The results were no different from what the responsible doctor said. I was diagnosed with advanced stage cervical cancer. Only then did I realize that, unlike other cancers, cervical cancer does not cause pain or obvious symptoms. Many cases are discovered in the advanced stages of the disease. Fortunately, cervical cancer has a good prognosis, with a survival rate after treatment reaching nearly 80%. However, for patients like me, diagnosed at stage 4, the survival rate is very low as around 25%. I was still young, so I had hopes of falling within that 25% survival rate. However, I found that cancer is a much more dangerous disease for young people. This is because the younger you are, the faster cancer cells multiply. I couldn't hold out much hope. It was a grim situation. The fact that hurt me the most was the diagnosis that I wouldn't be able to have children. I was devastated that I couldn't be a mother, but at least I hadn't lived in vain. The faithful life I lived did not allow me to fall into despair. When it spread that I had been hospitalized with cancer, many people came to help me. They gave me words of comfort, saying they were grateful for my help in the past. "Why are you telling me this now?" It means that things in the world don't always go according to people's wishes. Wait, I'm not finished. Listen to me. After the daughter-in-law's death, there was a mess. She, like you, was a businesswoman who owned a large company, but since she hadn't prepared the inheritance documentation regarding shares and so on, she ended up passing her inheritance to unintended people. Her family received almost nothing. An inheritance of mere pennies. What a shame. What if that happens to us? I'm about to have surgery. It's not a small operation, it's a big one. You need to say something like this to me now? You never know what will happen to people. So if you have something to organize, your assets, clarify that in advance. Lower your voice, this is a hospital. How could I lower my voice after hearing that I should prepare the inheritance in advance? The chance of me dying is high. To be honest, if you die without children and grandchildren, what will be left for me or your husband? Nothing will be left but the inheritance. Mother-in-law, you are sounding very strange today. People change constantly. Please, don't come to the hospital anymore. It will be difficult for me to see your face for a while, I think. It would be more comfortable for me to have a caregiver. Better for me to understand those who are about to undergo life or death surgery. It's natural to prepare personal matters in case of death. From the moment I was admitted to the cancer ward, I already had my personal affairs in mind. If something goes wrong with me, the person who will take care of my assets, as an executor, would be my husband. But that day, the reason I was in a bad mood was due to my mother-in-law's attitude. She said it as if she was expecting me to die. She openly expressed her greed and expectation for the inheritance in front of me. I, who had endured painful chemotherapy sessions to somehow be ready for the surgery, as the saying goes, you can never know someone's mind, and it was not possible to clearly understand what my mother-in-law was thinking. Suddenly, she revealed her greed for the inheritance. But I could clearly feel one thing: she was very different from when she cared for me so lovingly before. Therefore, I decided to keep my distance from my mother-in-law for the time being. And since that day, she hasn't visited me in the hospital. But just because I couldn't see her didn't mean I could relax, as she started checking on my status at every meal. The more I thought about her behavior, sending messages even if I didn't respond, the stranger she seemed. What's wrong with checking on your daughter-in-law's health, who is a cancer patient? My mother-in-law's messages began in a very common way, just to say a hello. The real issue were the last phrases that followed, asking if I wanted to see my deceased parents, who had passed away first, or if I resented the world a lot since someone's life is determined by God. How is this different from saying that she marked me as someone who will die soon? The repeated messages from my mother-in-law suffocated me, and I ended up blocking her phone number. My husband was upset that I blocked her number, but thank God he turned a blind eye to it. Meanwhile, an unexpected angel came to me. It was my caregiver, a grandmother who took such good care of me that my husband could go to work with peace of mind. She had a charm and knew exactly what I needed. Above all, she was very wise, as if she knew all the answers to the problems of life. I don't know why people with close relatives are like this, she said. I'm sorry, I feel bad. I intruded presumptuously. Nowadays, young people don't like people intruding in their affairs. It's all right, I'm grateful to have someone to talk to, since I get bored after my husband goes to work. But what did you mean by that? People with close relatives? I heard that all day while caring for another patient. Your mother-in-law seems to care only about the inheritance you have. Yes, honestly, I don't know. She was such a nice person, but why did she suddenly change? Oh my God. Haste makes waste, but sometimes money speaks louder than blood. Oh, my money is gone, I replied, smiling at the grandmother's sarcastic joke. Don't get me wrong, it's not a compliment to say that money is the best, but rather that money follows people. Anyway, make sure you eat all your dinner, scrape everything off your plate. If you eat as little as a lunch, your health won't improve. Eating will give you energy. You need to be strong to face the difficult surgery with confidence. Yes, with confidence. The grandmother who came to care for me in this way became the only source of joyful energy for me in the difficult hospital life. She said she thought of me one day while passing by and brought me snacks from time to time, as I was tired of the bland hospital food. She said she brought whatever I wanted, but soon I realized that she was quite experienced in hospital care. She asked my primary care doctor what would be good for my health and avoided unhealthy snacks. I spent a lot of time with her, who was such a dedicated caregiver, and gradually began to forget my worries about my mother-in-law. Finally, I went into the operating room with both body and mind in shape. The surgery was so difficult that the entire medical team, starting with the lead doctor, said the prognosis was unpredictable. But the outcome was successful. Along with the fact that cervical cancer has one of the lowest mortality rates, it was a miracle created by the caregiver's comfort and support, my will to live, and the medical team's heart wanting to save my life. However, after recovering from the surgery, I returned to the hospital room, and my husband was not by my side when I opened my eyes. He hadn't shown up throughout my recovery. Only my caregiver, the grandmother, held my hands every day and said her thank you prayers. The situation was so strange to me, but I couldn't bring myself to ask. The grandmother's eyes, as if looking at her sick daughter, told me to focus on my recovery now. Only after the day I was discharged, when my health was almost restored, did the grandmother tell me everything she knew. She said, "You finally got rid of that damn disease, right?" "Yes, according to my doctor, it's necessary to absorb the prognosis for the next 5 years before determining a cure. The surgical procedure went well and my recovery was quick, so there's no major concern." "That's good, dear. It's really good. Now tell me, did I regain my health?" "Well, I work here and there to care for my granddaughter who lost her parents early." "That's how we met." "On the day you went into surgery, I went to a real estate agent's office to do some cleaning and your husband was sitting there." "Why was he checking the property?" I was perplexed. "Remember when I said the most precious thing is blood? The word has a good meaning, that the love between family members is deep, but it also has a dark meaning. To summarize, it means that the same parents produce the same children. Just like your mother-in-law, who was initially interested in your money, even your husband, who pretended to care, was like his mother, interested in your money first." Yes, it seemed like a stylish occasion. But how could he know about money that I didn't? It seems that for him, it was money from the moment you had cancer. Sorry, he asked a real estate agent to recommend a stable property for him. It's good if the property is expensive, because if your wife's surgery goes wrong, all her fortune is about to fall on him as inheritance. And even if the operation goes well, he will divorce her under the pretext of infertility and get half of her fortune. He seemed very friendly with the real estate agents. "Do you know the real estate agent Charles?" "I know he's from my husband's hometown and they have been close since childhood." "Anyway, thank you for the warning. How can I repay you for now?" Record carefully what I said. Sometimes, money speaks louder than bloodlines. This means that once a person is ensnared by the terrible spell of money, they will no longer be rational. Therefore, from now on, you must be firm and behave accordingly. "Yes, thank you for the advice." After leaving the hospital, I repeated the words of my caregiver about behaving wisely and went to my in-laws' house. Coincidentally, my mother-in-law was arguing with her son, not even knowing I had arrived. My husband, who had made an advance payment for the land using all his savings, was pleading with his father to get alimony from me. He promised to repay it and was asking her to help cover the remaining balance on the property he bought. In response, my mother-in-law told him she was out of money and yelled at her son. On the other hand, she kept asking about the results of my surgery and if it was true that the surgery had been successful. She inquired about the likelihood of my death, as she had heard that many people die in the 5 years following the surgery. Ignoring the fact that they were mother and son, they were fighting over money, which left me with just one thought: once a person is ensnared by the terrible spell of money, they will not be reasonable, whether family or not. Well, what my caregiver told me was true. Sorry for ruining the mood. I think it's time to observe them alone. There is no comedy like this. When you arrived, what did the doctor say? The doctor said that your cancer will come back soon, didn't he? How unlucky for you. The doctor said my prognosis is very good. The recovery is quick, so I won't have to worry too much in the future. She seemed disappointed. Why are you disappointed? Because you won't be able to get my money? Isn't it a bit funny? Even if the surgery goes wrong, I know the money will go to my husband, not to you, mother-in-law. It's my son's money, and my son's money is all mine. Why would we fight between mother and son? Let me ask a question while we're talking. why did you suddenly become so covetous of my money? You weren't like this before. When the date was set, I went to your house to tidy up your things. While I was there cleaning the house, I ended up seeing the bank statements and noticed the balance was several $100,000, in addition to your company's high-value stocks. So how do you think you will survive when you die? Hundreds of thousands of dollars are at stake. If I had had my way, I would have pulled your life support in the hospital. At least you are so honest that you are swallowing it all for money. At that moment, my husband intervened. That's why my wife is telling you, Mother, that this isn't your money. Even if something happens to her, all this money is mine. I asked my husband, "Did you just call me your wife, dear?" "Of course, dear. You are my wife." "So you are a stranger?" "Well, since I haven't divorced you for infertility yet, I suppose you're legally right." "Were you listening?" "Since when?" "You should be careful. Even walls have ears. Even if I hadn't come here today, this would have been revealed eventually. While I was in surgery, you were out looking to buy land, counting on getting alimony from me." "Dear, it's fine. There was one more thing to believe." "So why do you keep asking just to be irritating? Do you know why it started? Do you know what you've ruined with this money? You've rubbed salt in the wound of my infertility instead of comforting me. You shouldn't have used that against me. So what should we do now? Make up a lie as an excuse? That's enough for now. Both of you, follow me. I have good news to share." Taking them both, I went to the office of a former college classmate who had become a lawyer. My husband and mother-in-law looked nervous being in the lawyer's office. I spoke calmly to the lawyer. "Someone told me that you never know what might happen in life, so I want to designate an executor and beneficiary of my will in advance. Is it possible to do that now? Is there someone specifically designated?" I replied, "Because I need to say, it's obviously my husband." At the moment I said this, I saw a flash of triumph on the faces of my husband and mother-in-law. I continued, "Please proceed with the divorce filing. All the reasons are attributable to disaster." My husband seemed surprised. "Why are you so surprised? For someone who so boldly conspired to seize half of my money? What are you talking about, dear? There is no evidence. You'll make the argument in front of a judge, you fool. And why is there no evidence? Because I, who came to the brink of death, have come back realizing more than anyone else how precious every minute and second are. So there should not be a meeting and a session with you here. I never want to see you again, not even in my dreams." After finishing speaking, I played the cell phone recording file. It was a recording containing everything I deliberately asked my husband and mother-in-law at my in-laws' house some time ago. At that moment, my husband and mother-in-law quickly knelt before me and began pleading for forgiveness. It was only after recording their promises that they would stay at least 500 yards away from me and agree to the divorce without alimony that I calmed down. Once the agreement was reached, they left the lawyer's office in a hurry and unpleasant manner. That day, there was a different reason for my silent divorce without receiving alimony. When I was so angry that I considered imprisoning him for intentional and malicious emotional distress, my lawyer scolded me. "What do you mean? I am your lawyer. If you had left everything to me, I would have made sure he paid you properly, plus compensation for intentional and malicious emotional distress. Why did you give him an uncontested divorce? Even if I didn't act, he is on a path to self-destruction. Originally they were very poor, and he put all his earnings and savings into an advance payment for a piece of land he can't afford. He was going to pay the balance with the alimony money he was going to get from me, but now that plan is out the window. This means he will lose the advance payment. He reaps what he sows. He asked for it. My husband ended up losing all his savings as I predicted. He couldn't pay the balance on the property, so he lost all the advance payment. The relationship between my husband and his mother began to show what my caregiver had said, where money was more important than kinship. My husband resented his mother for not covering the shortfall in his property, and his mother blamed him for divorcing a wife who was supposed to bring in golden eggs with his imperfect schemes. I regained all my health. It has been 8 years since my surgery, and my doctor said I am cured. With the realization that health is the most important thing, I am much healthier now than before my battle with cancer, thanks to exercise and taking care of my body. What happened to my caregiver, the grandmother? Of course, I am gradually repaying her kindness. However, she refused when I offered financial compensation. I continue to see her frequently and maintain our friendship. She taught me a lesson when I asked how I could repay her kindness. The way to repay her true kindness is to stay in touch with her often. In her lonely life, seeing me frequently and continuing our relationship are the true rewards. And if you liked this video, like, comment and share. Until the next video.